Dr. Sarah Al-Madani said, narcissists rape your soul every single day. They're monsters in human flesh. Do you agree with that?
Dude, I think some people experience it that way when they're on the wrong side of a real bad
Yeah.
relationship or in a cult or something. So I will not say people don't have that experience. I generally feel calling people monsters isn't a good way to understand them. And just my general understanding of evil and evil people in general throughout my career is that when you talk to somebody who's evil, they very rarely say, "Hi, I'm a monster and I'm evil
Mhm.
and I'm here to hurt you."
Mhm.
The world is much more complicated than that. Yeah.
Do you think evil exists then in people from your experience?
There's this idea floating around that's a little bit, I won't say fringe, but it's just hard to really nail down with the behavioral genetics, which is this idea of the bad seed. There's a book, and a book by this, I chatted with the author because she wrote it about someone in her family that they're just like, where did this evil person come from? So there is this concept around sometimes you get some pretty bad people. And certainly in psychology, we know that traits like narcissism, but especially psychopathy.
Mhm.
In the narcissism world, sometimes we talk about malignant narcissism, which is
Yeah.
like narcissism plus power seeking plus a little sadism. Yeah, you get some pretty nasty people out there for sure. Yeah, you get some pretty nasty people. But again, evil, yeah, maybe I'm getting a little C.S. Lewis because I'm talking to somebody from the old country, but evil is often a little more subtle and a little more seductive than just the monstrous presentation with some of these more extreme forms of psychopathology. Narcissism can be really bad, but when we talk about extreme psychopathy or, like I said, more malignant narcissism, that's a little bit typically a little worse.
And why do people get attracted to narcissists even when the mask drops and they show their true colors?
They don't get attracted to them when the mask is dropped.
Yeah.
They get attracted to the mask usually. So one of the things that makes, and it gets a little complicated with narcissism because there's this more extroverted or grandiose form that a lot of us are thinking about when we
Yeah.
think about narcissism. And then there's a more vulnerable form, which isn't that appealing. But with the more grandiose form, you have somebody who's extroverted, confident, maybe charismatic, socially assertive, and energetic. So you have a whole bunch of positive traits. And then you have some other traits like self centered, sense of entitlement, willing to manipulate other people to get what they want, game playing. Yeah, think they're better than everybody else. So you get some negative stuff. And narcissism is very much a trade off between those positive and negatives. The way relationships work, I don't know. I guess they don't work anymore with your generation. I'm sorry. I don't know what the heck they did, you guys. And I apologize because I wanted nothing to do with these evil SOBs. That's what I think is evil, is having young kids not have fun. I think that when you first meet somebody dating, what is the more extroverted the mask, the persona, the charm, the confidence, the charisma, and that's really appealing.
Mm.
Once you get to know somebody, the mask slips, but usually at that point you've gotten talked into a relationship and then you start making excuses for it. It's like you take a cruise, you save up all your money to take a cruise to the Bahamas or something, and you go, my God, I'm seasick and the food's bad and it's just hideous. But you spend all this money and you go, it's pretty good still, and I'll make it work. So I think
Um,
the problem is people get sucked into it, and you'll see it with politicians. Your politics are different than ours. Ours are much longer and they're more reality television. So you'll see it with politicians. The more you see them, the more the mask will slip. You'll see them in odd positions and you'll see anger and hostility, real antagonism through their eyes. That I'm thinking of a few people right now whose masks are slipping. It's interesting,
yeah.
but it usually takes time with
Yeah.
narcissism to see it.
Yeah. But for the grandiose narcissists, does it always take that long to notice it? Because maybe they're not narcissists, but I sometimes, from the traits that you've just described, I've often come across a few people here and there where I'm kind of just like instantly, okay, there's something slightly off with you, slightly a bit
Yeah,
too.
Yeah. So I think two things. One is, sure, you can notice it in people. And secondly, you're going to notice it when the narcissistic individual isn't paying attention to you. But if they're
Mm,
paying attention to you and they're
mm,
charming and charismatic, I have literally never met a politician I didn't like. I'll tell you, one I met, I was like, dude, this guy is such a phony. I can't even stand it. But even then, at least he was trying to be a phony. So just that's how it is. The
mm.
people are charming. They're good at their job. So usually if somebody's narcissistic and they're talking to you and they want to form a relationship with you because they see some value there, they're going to be maybe perhaps charming, or they might inflate your sense of esteem. They might say, oh, you're special. Sometimes in the romantic relationships, they talk about it as love bombing.
Yeah.
That's the data on that are iffy, but I've heard it enough with people. Narcissists can sometimes activate that same ego and narcissism in you. And you, God, I really like this person. They're so energetic and they seem attractive and they think I'm attractive and I really like them and it's great. And your friends might watch this and go, dude, this bad news, red flag. But you're not going to see it. If some attractive narcissistic woman came up to you and started being charming and telling you look good, you'd probably fall for it. No, I'm no offense to you. I would probably fall for it in 2 seconds. And I've been married for 25 years and I know
Mm,
better. So it's very easy. If somebody wants you to feel good about yourself, it's very easy to let them.
yeah. And do we fall for it neurochemically, do you think? Is there some like neurochemistry going on here where oxytocin increase, dopamine increase that we
Yeah, I tell you, I just don't know enough about neuroscience and neurochemistry to say anything that isn't just using it as a metaphor.
mm,
I could even say mirror neurons if I wanted with your list there. I don't know. My guess on the personality trait side with the narcissism, it's the extroversion that's really driving the attraction. So
mm,
people who seem energized, confident, extroverted, are attractive. We like them as leaders, but I don't know what the neurochemistry is, or if there is
yeah,
something that crude, crudely neurochemical under it. It could be for sure.
yeah. And how would you define the difference between someone having narcissistic traits and then someone having clinical narcissistic
Oh,
personality disorder?
yeah. So narcissism it gets real confusing because we have this term narcissism, or we'll say narcissist. And we're talking about either somebody who's a high level of these personality traits that have to do with narcissism, or they have a clinical disorder. Same way we say, yeah, my buddy's depressed, or my buddy's got major depressive disorder, and we're putting him into a 72-hour hold in a psychiatric facility because he's suicidal. Those are two very different
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And narcissism's the same. So the narcissistic personality disorder is defined as having, let's see, a very positive view of oneself, a lack of empathy in close relationships, and a need or desire for admiration. So it's essentially saying, I'm awesome. I don't really care so much about other people, and I need to do things interpersonally to keep myself feeling awesome, be admired by people. And then the definition, and this is from the DSM 5, it's the same in the 4 actually, it goes through 9 things. It says if you have 5 of 9 of these that are clinically impairing, it can be narcissistic. And they're things like only want to hang out with special people or institutions, need admiration, want to be center of attention, those kind of things. The key is a psychiatrist or somebody doing an assessment needs to show that each of those narcissistic traits leads to significant clinical impairment, or to be clinically significant impairment in an important domain of life. For example, my ego is so big, I can't keep a marriage together. I'm so overconfident, I take risks at work and I lost my job at the bank. I have emotion regulation problems. When people tell me I don't get special treatment, that I become dysregulated and enraged and sometimes assault people verbally because of my sense of entitlement. And so if you get a bunch of stuff like that, a clinician goes, that's a disorder, let's treat it. but it has to have impairment. And if you're just an arrogant jerk, but you're doing okay, that's not a disorder. That's just your personality.
So it has to deeply affect, especially social relationships, right?
Yeah, the way we tend to break it down with problems is love and work. Does it affect you at work or does it affect your relationships? That goes back to Freud. And the problems themselves are with narcissism, it's primarily going to see interpersonal problems like your marriage falls apart, but you're going to see some affect or emotion regulation problems. Like I said, if you get rejected or negative feedback, you're not going to handle it well. You're going to maybe see some distortions. You're not going to see delusional systems like I'm the king of an unknown universe, like a schizophrenic, but you're going to say I'm a big deal when you're really not. So you're going to get a range of problems, but it's not going to be extreme as something like schizophrenia or something. And the other thing with a narcissistic personality disorder is it's supposed to be part of your disorder, your personality or your character. So it should be around a long time. So if your buddy wakes up one day and you're like, dude, you're acting like super narcissistic, what's going on? It just happened. You wouldn't look at NPD. You'd say the guy doing meth. Did he have some sort of mold issue? Is there something, maybe he's having a manic break and he's in a bipolar phase or something. So there's these different manifestations that might look like narcissism, but if they just happen in one day, you wouldn't think it's personality. You'd think it's something else.
That leads me to a question that is, does it have to appear in childhood, or does it have to just be, it can pop up in your 20s and then be consistent for the rest of your life? Is it the consistency, not the time at which it appears?
For something to be a personality disorder, it has to be around in adolescence. With children, when we're talking a 5-year-old or something, we can predict adult narcissism from temperament in young kids.
Wow.
Now, when I say predict, I'm talking like 8% of the variance, or for a psychologist saying prediction, what it means theoretically is different than a normal person. Yeah, I'm not betting a whole bunch of money on it. Like I see a pattern, but it's not 1-to-1 at all.
Yeah.
You can predict it, but typically young kids, they go through developmental phases where they're self-centered, where they're exhibitionistic, where they're attention seeking. The joke is you see kids dancing around naked. No one goes, oh, that kid's got NPD. Let's get a shrink. We go, that's a normal part of development. Everybody laughs.
Yeah.
And then you lose that over time. So Freud talked about narcissism as maybe a healthy phase of development, or at least a normal phase of development. And it's not something I worry about with young kids because kids change a lot, even though there is some consistency.